What if a single email could force your employer to pay you $110 a day? There's a free legal document that controls your benefits, your eligibility, your vesting, your right to appeal a denial. And if you request it in writing and they ignore you, the penalty clock starts. Most workers have never even seen it, let alone asked. I read the fine print so you don't have to. This document is called the Summary Plan Description, and it quietly governs the retirement and benefit plans of millions of American workers. Today, I'll show you 3 moves. Request the current SPD in writing, compare it against your own records, and save your appeal deadline before you ever need it. Each one turns a buried document into real leverage. Here's the number that starts everything: 90 days. Under ERISA, your plan administrator must generally deliver your SPD within 90 days of you becoming covered, according to the Department of Labor's EPSA Reporting and Disclosure Guide. But here's the part nobody tells you. Most people never receive it and never realize they can demand it. So here's the plan. Request the current SPD, compare it against your pay stubs and statements, and save your claims deadline. Each takes under 20 minutes, and every step is free. The first hidden cost is information asymmetry. The SPD is the one document that spells out your eligibility, vesting, claims process, and appeal rights. Yet, it's routinely buried or forgotten, even though the plan administrator must provide it free of charge under DOL rules. You're making decisions about your money without the rulebook that governs it. And the rules have a shelf life. The SPD must reflect the plan's contents as of a date no earlier than 120 days before disclosure, according to 29 CFR 2520 102(3), and the DOL. A stale or hard-to-find SPD means you might be planning around rules that no longer apply, and you'd only find out after a denial. The second layer is missed enforcement leverage. If you formally request the SPD and your employer doesn't provide it within 30 days, they can face a Department of Labor penalty of up to $110 per day, according to current DOL guidance summarized by a census. Almost nobody knows the clock even exists. And the cost of doing nothing is concrete. If you can't verify your vesting, eligibility, or appeal rights before a job change or a claim denial, you can miss the deadline to challenge that decision entirely. Meanwhile, the employer's disclosure failure keeps racking up penalties, money you'd never claim if you didn't ask. Here's the myth that stops people. The SPD is just a summary, so only the full plan document matters. The fact, straight from the DOL and 29 CFR 2520.102(3), is that the SPD is the primary legal disclosure. It must be free, written for an average participant, and explain how the plan actually operates. Put the 2 costs side by side. $110 per day is the penalty an employer can face for failing to furnish the document, and the DOL can assess up to $1,566 per request, according to a census. The SPD is both your rulebook and your enforcement lever, and most workers use neither. Let me show you what this looks like for a real person. Meet Maya, 41, an office manager earning $78,000 a year with $96,000 in her 401k and 14 years to retirement. She'd never once seen her SPD. Here's what Maya found. Her first discovery: 90 days. She learned the SPD is supposed to be delivered within 90 days of coverage and updated when the plan changes, not whenever HR gets around to it, according to the DOL. This is general information, not personal advice. But the timing rule is the same for every covered worker. Her second discovery hit a different layer. Her SPD had to spell out vesting, contributions, loans, withdrawals, and appeals in writing, per 29 CFR 2520(102)(3). That means a denied benefit is governed by written procedures she can actually use, not an informal explanation from someone in HR who might be guessing. And her third discovery was the most striking. She learned that if she requests the SPD and doesn't get it within 30 days, her employer can face $110 per day in penalties, according to a census. That's a far stronger enforcement stick than most workers ever realize they're holding. So what's actually at stake for Maya? $96,000 in her 401k, 14 years of growth, and a set of rules she'd never read. The real exposure isn't a single fee. It's a missed appeal deadline or a vesting mistake she can't fix in time. Exactly what the SPD exists to prevent. Could this be you? Sign 1. You've never received or read a summary plan description. Sign 2. You don't actually know when your employer contributions vest. Sign 3. You've never seen your plan's claims and appeals deadline. If any of those apply, the next 3 moves are built for you. These 3 moves matter because they convert a document your employer hoped you'd forget into real, enforceable leverage over your own benefits. Request it, compare it, and save your deadline. And you go from guessing about your plan to controlling it. Let's walk through exactly how. Move 1. Request the SPD in writing. Find your plan administrator's contact on your benefits materials and email a request for the current SPD and any summary of material modifications if the plan changed. Doing it in writing matters. That's what starts the 30-day clock and your protection under DOL rules. Here's how. Find the plan administrator contact on your plan materials, email a written request for the SPD and any modifications. Then confirm the document's date is current within the last 120 days. Good looks like the current SPD in your hands within 30 days, matching the live plan rules. Move 2. Compare the SPD against your own records. Open it next to your pay stubs and account statements, and check when participation starts, when employer contributions vest, and how appeals are filed. Write down any mismatch between what payroll shows and what the document says. Those gaps are where problems hide. Here's how. Find the eligibility, vesting, and claim sections. Match each one against your pay stubs and statements, and note any mismatch to raise with the administrator. Good looks like no unexplained gap between the SPD's vesting and its eligibility rules and your actual account record. Before I get to the last move, which is the most counterintuitive part of all this and the one that protects you when everything else has gone wrong, stick with me. Move 3. Save your appeal deadline before you ever need it. Go to the SPD's Claims and Appeals section and pull the exact deadline, submission method, and required evidence. Here's how. Locate the exact appeal, deadline, and submission method. Note what evidence a claim requires, then calendar that deadline and store a copy of the SPD. Good looks like being able to appeal using the SPD alone, without chasing HR. If breakdowns like this are useful, subscribe. The next one's already coming. Why does this matter right now? In 1974, ERISA created the federal framework requiring these summary disclosures and participant rights. In 2019, the DOL's guide restated the 90-day delivery rule and the 120-day freshness requirement, and for 2026, current guidance puts failure to furnish penalties at $110 per day, with a cap of $1,566 per request. The rights are old. The penalties are live now. After you act, here's how to verify it worked. You should see a dated SPD arrive within 30 days of your request. Confirm the vesting and eligibility sections match your statements. And if they never respond at all, note the date, because that penalty clock is now running in your favor. Everything here comes from the Department of Labor, its ERISA disclosure guide, the federal regulation at 29 CFR 2520-10223, and industry analysis from a census. I've linked all of them below so you can check the rules against your own plan. So now you know how to request, compare, and save the document that quietly controls your benefits. Next, I'm covering the 401k fee disclosure form that's hidden right in your statement footnotes, and how it quietly drains your balance. That fee breakdown is one most people never notice until it's cost them thousands. If you want to catch it, subscribe now so you don't miss it when it lands.